Okay, welcome back. Chapter 3, GIS Outputs, how to get maps and data out of GIS for use in other applications and for sharing. So we're going to talk about the audiences that you might be preparing maps for, layouts, adding elements to your layouts like graphs, and talk a little bit about scale, and ArcGIS Online, which will be the assignment for this chapter, as well as exporting maps in a variety of formats. So let's get started with the audiences that you might be working with. Like I said in the last chapter, the first question you want to ask when you're developing a map is who's going to be seeing this? What is their level of familiarity with the subject matter, with the area? And depending on the answer to those questions is going to go a long way in determining what kind of elements need to be included in the map, as well as the symbology and just general information on the map. If it's someone who's familiar with the area, familiar with the data, you don't have to probably put a north arrow. If it's someone who doesn't have a working knowledge of the subject matter or of the area, you're probably going to need to add a little bit more information on the maps. So the two categories of audience that you're going to be working with, typically the general public, you're communicating information. Okay, that's what it is. The thing to keep in mind with the public is to keep it simple. Okay, don't try and show too much on a map, too much analysis. Well, not too much analysis, but too much data on your map can really confuse the average user. On the flip side, a trained analyst who's familiar with the area or the data that you're showing, yeah, you can take some liberties with the maps and maybe show them in a different way if they understand the information that's being presented. So let's talk a little bit about map layouts. This is where you actually develop the cartography of a map. So here we have an example of the layout. First thing you notice is the map is the most prominent element. You'd be surprised how many maps you see where maybe the legend is shown as the most important element, or the title is huge and blocky and in bright colors, and the map is almost an afterthought. So some of the elements that are present here, obviously the map, but you have a title of the data. You are showing a legend of the geographic scale of the data. We're showing here population by county, and so the colors, yes, can mean something. The legend tells the user what each color means. The map is sourced. It has the source of the data. It has a date, author, map's author. So yeah, especially for a class, when you create a map, please make sure your name's on it. Even though you submit them electronically with your name in the file name, it's always good practice to put your name on the map as the author. Take some credit for it. So here's another example. This is a large-scale map. Again, remember, large scale shows a small area. Here we have a scale bar on there. We have a north arrow because not everybody may be familiar with the city of Pittsburgh. So again, some other elements on there. Again, the data source, possibly an inset map to show locations. You can add tables, charts, graphic images. when you're working in a layout view in ArcMap, think of it as a virtual piece of paper. You can move elements around the page and and develop your map, your layout, right there on that virtual piece of paper. So here's an example of putting multiple maps on the same page. Again, we have the same geographic extent, so make sure the scales are the same. Make sure your color ramps are the same if you're showing the same data. In this case, we're showing Asian and Native American populations as a percentage. Make sure you use the same, maybe it's not percentage, but make sure you use the same scale and the same numeric scale on both maps. That way, they're easily compared one to another. You don't have to look at two different legends. So here's an example of a poor layout. The map is small relative to the page. The title is ambiguous at best. The legend elements are cryptic. PCTUNEMP. I'm going to assume that's percent unemployment, but I'm not really sure. The numeric scale is wacky, and the color ramp really doesn't work either. So, pause for a second and just work out in your mind how you would update this layout and make it a better, more usable layout. So here is the same data for the same area with a much better layout. We have map as the prominent feature on the page. We have a better description of what the data is. The color ramp has been cleaned up, and the numeric values have been rounded, well labeled, so you understand what is being shown. All right, so reports and graphs. This is a feature that ArcMap has, where you can export data to show in a report, or create a graph to add to your layout as a graphic element. It's not linked back to the data, so if you change something in the attribute table, that is not reflected in your graphs, in your reports. So you start with selecting layouts, and then you right-click in the attribute table in the top left and select Add Report to Layout. It will import that table into your layout as a text window. Again, it's not linked back to the attribute table. You can create graphs out of the data. This is an example of some pie charts. Actually, no, excuse me. That was a couple of different data items by county in Texas. So you can create a scatter plot, plotting those two attributes against each other in an XY in a XY scatter plot. So here we have the relationship of uninsured and unemployed populations by county. So each dot there on that map is one county with the value in the X and the Y axis plotted. Let's talk a little bit about scales. We've mentioned this a couple of times, but you can there are various ways of putting together map scales. Ratios. Okay, these are unitless, dimensionless. They can represent any measurement unit. Okay, 1 to 24,000. 1 unit on the page is equal to 24,000 of the same unit on the surface of the Earth. If you are familiar with USGS quadrangle maps, that's the scale that those those maps are produced at. So it's also known as a representative fraction, but again, it doesn't have any unit. So again, example of large and small scale. Remember, scale is a ratio. Okay, so the larger the denominator, okay, makes a small fraction. So a small scale map shows a big area, and a large scale map shows a small area. So the scale is indicated in that window there at the top of the ArcMap window. You can adjust that using the pull down arrow there to the right of that window. You can also type in a value in that window to represent the denominator in the representative fraction. So in this case, this is 100,000. This is 24,000. Okay, so you can see how much more detail comes out the closer we zoom in to the area. 1 to 10,000. So experiment with the scales. Another thing to keep in mind with the scales is the data that you're using in your map may not be valid at that scale. If it's data that's collected at the global scale, say 1 to a million, and you try and pull it into a 1 to 10,000 map, you're going to wonder why the streets don't line up, or why the line work looks all jagged, because it's not valid at that scale. It's valid at the 1 to 100,000 scale. So most data that you can download from reputable sources such as AGRC have a valid scale range for them. Outside of that scale range, it's used at your own risk. So map units. This is the units that display in the map window as you are measuring or for your scale. Feet and meters are what most local governments use. The state of Utah uses UTM meters. So when you see the values in that window, if you're using local data, those are going to be in meters. Let's talk a little bit about ArcGIS Online. For several years, Esri has been putting their resources into their desktop products, and they have come light years from where they started. In the last few years, they've started to put resources into what's called ArcGIS Online, or web-based GIS. There's a couple ways you can use that. The first one is to buy your own server, and a computer programmer and IT guy to buy expensive hardware and software and spend time maintaining it so that you can serve maps and data on the web, online. The other way you can do it is to use arcgis.com or ArcGIS Online. This is a cloud-based web GIS platform that is evolving constantly to be able to perform some basic analysis tasks. The cartography is not bad, and it's good for some basic visualization and basic analysis. You can either subscribe through an organization. If you work for a company that has an organization, an organizational account, see about getting an account there. But you can also sign up for an individual account where you get a fair bit of storage and some basic tools and the ability to create maps using any online available data, and you can also share those out with the public, and that's going to be part of the assignment for this chapter, is to play around in ArcGIS Online, create an online map and share it. So to sign up for an individual, if you don't already have an account, go to arcgis.com. Up at the top, you'll see a sign in area. You'll click that, and near the bottom on the left, you'll see sign up for an individual account, I believe is how it is. And you'll just give them some basic information, create a username and password, and you can then link that account to your ArcMap, to your ArcGIS desktop, and you can save and upload those layers there, straight out of your desktop software. So here's once you've created those maps, they're viewed in a browser. You don't have to have any software installed on your computer. And it really is quite a nice product. You have a selection of base maps to use, from topographic to imagery to OpenStreetMap, to be able to underlie your data. All right, so really quickly, let's talk about exporting maps out of ArcMap. There are several different graphic formats that you can export your maps out of. I prefer that they be exported out of the layout view, just because then you get all of your text elements like your title and your legend and stuff. But there are three basic families of file formats: a raster format, which is basically an image, bitmap, JPEG. You can change the resolution on that. You can also export it as vector-based graphic files if you're using it in like a publishing program, or you can have a web-based graphics format, such as a PDF, that will allow you to share that data. So in your export, to export a map, again, I prefer it come out of the layout view, just because you made your map all pretty, you may as well share it. If you go to the File menu in ArcMap and select Export Map, you'll get a dialog box of where to save it, and the bottom pull-down menu is the file type that you want to save, JPEG, PDF. There's also there at the bottom some tabs on the resolution, so you can set a resolution of dots per inch, or you can type in the values for the width and height to be able to save that. Again, remember that the higher the resolution, the larger the file size, so there can be limitations on emailing these files. I've run into that. And honestly, for something on the web, you really don't need to go above 150 dpi. Beyond that, you're just wasting storage space. So then, once you've exported it, you can open that image file in your image viewer, Paint, whatever image viewer you're using, and it looks like it came right out of like it does when it came right out of the layout view. Same with the PDF, open in with the Adobe Acrobat Reader. You can also embed that in a web page and use a browser plugin to be able to look at that. All right, you can also bring in the individual graphic elements into like a Word or a PowerPoint document, so you can adjust size, play with the layout a little bit more in your document. All right, so we've gone through how to get maps out of your GIS. So go through the tutorials. They'll walk you through everything we've talked about, and then the assignment is on page 142 of the textbook, to create an ArcGIS online map. Share it. Okay, make sure that you do that final step and click that share with everyone button. If I go to grade it and it tells me I can't access it, I'm going to email you back and have you fix that. Also, this is an ePortfolio assignment, so you will need to embed this map in your ePortfolio. There's instructions on embedding um, to get the embed code out of ArcGIS Online so that you can embed it in a window in your web page, in your ePortfolio. So do that and submit the URL to me as well. It's a separate assignment, separate points for doing that. So, as always, feel free to contact me with any questions, and we'll work through and make sure you can get what you need.